I talk quite a lot about the Harry Potter TV show on this channel. I've reacted to leaked pictures, casting announcements. I've talked about the things I think they might change and things I think they can't change. I even ranked which books I think would make the best seasons of TV and which books probably don't need an adaptation. But I just got sent this really interesting Reddit thread which I thought I would make a video about because somebody's asked if you could change one thing from canon, so from what happens in the books for the show, what would you change? So like what actually happens in Harry Potter that you would rather they changed in the show? Which I thought was a really cool idea because I usually focus on the other way around, right? Things from the books that didn't make it into the movies that I want them to make in the show. Or things that weren't in the books that they put in the films that were god-awful, like the burning of the Burrow. So going the other way, taking something from canon and changing it? It's a hard question. I need some time to think about my answer. So while I think, let's go through some answers on this Reddit thread. So this person said someone other than Bill being the secret keeper for Shell Cottage, maybe Mr. Weasley. That way it doesn't leave the question why wasn't James or Lily their own secret keeper. It's a good one. It's a small change. It doesn't really change anything about the plot, but it fixes a massive loophole with the Potters for Delia's charm. I recently made a video talking about what I would have done for the Potter's death to fix some plot holes, such as the plot hole with Delia's charm and also how Wormtail gets Voldemort's wand after the curse backfires. But rather than rewriting the whole scenario around the Potter's death to try and fix the Fidelius charm loophole, we could just change the thing with Shell Cottage. It's a good change and it doesn't impact too much of the story. Oh, this is a cool idea. This person said when they get to the Goblet of Fire, they'd love to see a Quidditch match between the schools. That's actually such a cool idea. Obviously so much is going on with the Triwizard Tournament, but like, you know, in the NFL, I think, don't they have like an all-star super team at the end of the season? Like for everyone who didn't make the Super Bowl, they have like the NFC and the AFC all-stars facing off against each other. So having like a Hogwarts all-star team, the best players from each house making a Hogwarts team and then them facing off against Beauxbatons and against Durmstrang, like a little three-way round robin, that would be really cool. Although, I wonder if Cedric would make the team ahead of Harry. Because I know Harry is a fantastic seeker, but the year before, Cedric literally beats Harry in a game of Quidditch. Granted, Harry falls off his broom and so isn't actually able to catch the snitch, but we know Cedric was a good seeker. The Goblet of Fire is already very long, so I feel like adding this to the book doesn't make a ton of sense, but it would be cool to see. If Harry does make the team, seeing him go head-to-head against Crumb, who's supposedly the greatest seeker in the world. Obviously, they couldn't make Harry better than him. That would be ridiculous plot armor. Ridiculous main character syndrome. But just the end of the game and Crumb saying that Harry's a good seeker, what an ego boost that would be. He does comment on Harry being a good flyer, actually, after the first task, doesn't he? Oh, Charlie coming in person to collect Norbert. I think that's a cool one. I don't really feel like it adds too much being Charlie's friends coming to get Norbert. Like Charlie coming all the way from Romania to Scotland to get Norbert to then go back. And doing it on a broom as well. Like surely if you're going that far, you'd like Portkey or Flu Network or something. But if Charlie had been home to visit his friends or his family, having him stop by to get Norbert personally before going back to Romania, I don't hate that for a change. That's quite cool. It's not like Charlie's friends play any larger role in the story as the books go on. So giving us an intro to Charlie, not a bad idea. This person says when Harry arrives at Hogwarts to find the diadem in book or season 7. Oh, we're jumping far ahead. I would have him explain that he's hunting Horcruxes to the students and teachers that ask him. Oh, I don't know how I feel about that. As this person underneath says, Horcruxes are an incredibly rare piece of dark magic. Nobody would probably know what he was talking about. Like maybe the odd teacher would, like McGonagall maybe. Slughorn obviously would if he found out. But like Seamus Finnegan's just gonna be like, what's one of them? Harry, my mum thought you were full of it in the 5th year and now I think you're full of it making things like Horcruxes up. My Irish accent is impeccable. I know I often throw my ring in the hat to play Moaning Myrtle or Wormtail. Don't think anyone's gonna be casting me for Seamus. But yeah, I think it's right. I think a lot of the characters wouldn't know what they were, so it doesn't add anything. Like I do think the whole secretive thing around that mission, where like he won't even tell like the Order or Remus, I do feel like that's a bit of a strange point. Like Dumbledore trusted the Order to help him take down Voldemort in both the First War and the Second War. So why can't he trust them to know about Horcruxes or Harry's mission? Why can't Harry have help? I guess there is the whole thing that like Death Eaters could kidnap and torture members of the Order at any point. So if, God forbid, Tonks got kidnapped and tortured and she was aware Harry was hunting Horcruxes, I guess there is more of a risk that that information could get to Voldemort. But by the time Harry gets back to Hogwarts, doesn't Voldemort already know that's what he's doing? And Harry knows that Voldemort knows as well, right? He has that vision. There's not really a lot to lose by telling everybody that's what they're doing. I don't really think it adds anything compared to if he was just like, buy me time, I have to find something important. So I don't think that's a necessary change, really. I'd really like there to be more good and likable Slytherin characters. 100%. So far, this is the one that I like the most. Even for some adult characters where we don't know the house affiliation of them being made to be in Slytherin, I'd love for some Slytherins to join the DA as well. I absolutely agree. I think the series does too much of a job of making Slytherin like the evil house. And so like when Slughorn comes along by book 6, he's essentially the first Slytherin that we actively see trying to do good. And that's not to say that all the other Slytherin characters through the books actively try and do bad, but there's just not enough of them actively being good people. And it just really pushes this idea of Slytherin being the evil house, which I don't think it's ever really supposed to be. And the movies then took that and just like absolutely ran with it. But I think having more likable Slytherins, whether that's students or random adults that are just sort of mentioned and like background characters, like have Professor Binns be a Slytherin, or like Grubblyplank or Sinistra or something like that. Like, is it ever confirmed what house Moody is in? Because he becomes a really high-ranked aura, right? Very powerful, probably very ambitious to get there. I don't know, Moody being a Slytherin actually doesn't quite feel right. But in general, more positive Slytherins, I'm here for that. Change the Quidditch rules so that catching the snitch gives you 50 points. Look, I'm very much team, let's rewrite the rules to Quidditch, okay? I think just changing it so the snitch gets you 50 points instead of 150, in theory, changes too much about how the Quidditch matches themselves go. But I think just making the rules of Quidditch better, I could get on board with that. Like, why are there 700 fouls? It feels like it's probably like a foul is elbowing somebody in the head and elbowing them in the shoulder and elbowing them in the ribs, and then another foul is like punching them in the head, and another foul is punching them in the ribs, and then another foul is using a beater's bat to hit them in the ribs. Just make one rule be no violent conduct, particularly in school Quidditch. I understand it might be different for like professional Quidditch. But 700 fouls is overkill, okay? Someone else here saying, not a change really, but I'd love to make some of the adult houses like Kingsley or Mad Eye being Slytherin. Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Kingsley is actually a great shout. Again, another very ambitious person, very successful, becomes a very high-ranking member of the ministry. In fact, he becomes minister. You have to be quite ambitious to become minister, I imagine. There are not enough Harry and Ginny scenes. They need more. I like that as well. I think anything that we can do to make Harry and Ginny's relationship feel more earned. You know, when Harry comes to the Burrow in the summer, it shouldn't just all be him hanging out with Ron. He should be spending a bit of time with Ginny, particularly in the later seasons. We need to be seeing Quidditch practice. Maybe before they hold tryouts in the later seasons when Harry is the captain, he and Ginny, because they're pretty much the only two guaranteed to be on the team, they could sit down and have like a strategy meeting in the common room. This one says, I would have changed Snape's death, and maybe it's just wishful thinking for me to have Snape find Harry and the trio, only for them to draw their wands on him, and he does something they never expect. He surrenders his wand and begs Harry to trust him and explains everything. I want Snape to personally confess his love for Lily to Harry before Voldemort kills him. I don't love it. Like, I do think that could be a great emotional moment. Everyone is convinced that Snape is a bad guy. We've seen him kill Dumbledore. We've seen him lead Hogwarts at a time when the Carrows are torturing first years. Everyone is convinced he is one of the most evil, awful dark wizards, one of Voldemort's most loyal followers. And so when the trio draw their wands expecting to fight him and he surrenders, I do think that could be a big moment. But one of the big things that I want the TV show to do is show Snape with all of his cruelty. Like, he bullies the children that he teaches. He has no respect for Harry, Ron, and Hermione. And so I want the TV show to give us that side of Snape. And so I feel like ending his story with a moment like this, where he seems remorseful and respectful, it just doesn't feel like who he is. And so I feel like him kind of quietly going about his business, doing what Dumbledore told him he had to do, and dying alone with Voldemort without confessing to anyone or getting anything off of his chest. And I guess without actively seeking that redemption or that validation for the things he's done. Like, part of me believes that the only reason Snape gives Harry his memories is because Harry has to learn that he has to die. It's not so Harry will understand why Snape was the person he was. And the reason Snape gives the memories of that backstory is because Harry has to trust him enough to understand that these memories haven't been modified. And so seeing Dumbledore tell Snape in his memory that Harry has to die is trustworthy and believable when Harry gets there. I don't think Snape is giving up those memories so that Harry will just, like him or respect him or think him to be brave or think him to be good. I don't think that's what Snape really cares about, what he really wants. And so having him seek out the trio to explain himself, it feels out of character for me. I think the one that I'm settling on, I think I love a lot of these, particularly the one about good Slytherins. I think that's just good for world building in general. If I had to come up with one that I've not read, it's kind of similar to giving us Harry and Ginny scenes. I want more of Ron and Hermione. Like, we know from some of the leaks that we are getting scenes not from Harry's perspective. We are getting Vernon's scene at the beginning of the first season, where Vernon goes to work the day that Voldemort has died and he sees all these weird wizards celebrating, not that he knows exactly that they're wizards. We've seen leaks of Dumbledore going and visiting Nicholas Flamel and his wife, almost certainly to convince them to destroy the stone and give up their immortality. Obviously, Harry's not there either. So if we're getting scenes not from Harry's perspective, then I would love it if we got scenes which showed us that actually Ron and Hermione have a relationship away from Harry. Not immediately a romantic relationship, but one where they are spending time, hanging out, being friends, getting close before Harry joins them. Before Ron makes the Gryffindor Quidditch team, Harry is off at Quidditch practice a bunch, so Ron, in the earlier years, probably spends a lot of time one-on-one with Hermione in the common room. In the Order of the Phoenix, Harry doesn't get to go to Grimmauld Place right away, even though Ron and Hermione are there. Spending time together, just the two of them. There is a whole foundation for their relationship that I think we can gently hint at through the earlier seasons, so that when they get together, it doesn't feel abrupt or out of the blue. When Ron gets jealous of Hermione and Crumb, that shouldn't feel out of the blue. We should have seen them getting close, spending time one-on-one together, not romantically, but enough for Ron to start having these odd feelings, almost like jealousy, but he doesn't know why. He's not piecing together that he actually likes Hermione yet. And then the same when we get to the Half-Blood Prince, Hermione having this crush on Ron shouldn't feel out of the blue. It should feel smack dab in the middle of the blue. I'm just going to try and put Friends references in all my videos. Anyway, I think that's probably the thing that I would change. And I don't know that it's even necessarily a change. Like, these things inevitably happen in the books. Just because it's mostly following Harry, we don't hear about them. So I want to see and hear about them in the show. If you have any ideas for non-canon things you'd like the show to do, leave them down in the comments. And I guess one other non-canon change I'd make would be the epilogue, the final scene of the show. And I outline exactly what I wish the epilogue had been in this video. You might want to check that one out next.